Episode 13,
Wow.
everybody.
So
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
seeing like mega motivator right now.
We see him on a table.
But our first meeting, she said nothing.
You know, this guy was rubbing shoulders with Alanis Morissette.
My mom's like, when are you going to get a real job?
How long have you been the owner of this brokerage?
Look into yourself and unravel yourself over a period of time.
Oh, yeah.
What's one thing you can't live without?
Memories all alone in the moonlight.
Sing it. Episode 13,
Wow.
everybody.
Episode 13.
Back.
We have a special guest here that nobody can see.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's talking though. And you know what? I always say, Ian, you're the youngest looking person in the room, but this guy doesn't age.
Takes the cake.
Do you want to introduce him, Alex?
No, you go for it.
Okay,
You're
this
better
man,
at that.
he's actually the broker of the brokerage that we're at, Keller Williams Real Estate Associates in Mississauga, Oakville, Georgetown. He was originally native from Ottawa. He's a tycoon in the real estate business, but what people don't know is he's a lot more than that. He can sing.
Wow.
He's been on TV shows. He's a tennis player. He's just everything.
Wow.
And golfer.
We didn't have the internet. So when you don't have the internet growing up, you
Yeah.
do a lot of things.
So we want to introduce our guest, Sunny Daljit. Thanks for being here, man.
Yes, thank you
Thanks
so
for coming on.
much.
Finally.
Really,
We are so excited to have
really
you.
enjoying what you guys are doing with this. And hey, it's great that you're using our space too here to create stuff like this, which is awesome. So
Well, thank you for the space.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
When we started the podcast, we actually wanted to bring value to people.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted it to be something new. And when we thought about guests, we were like, we need to have Sunny on because there's somebody out there today that's going to hear something that you say and it's going to change their life. You've
Yep.
already changed all of our lives
Yep.
with the small little chats that you do. We
Mm-hmm.
always, when you leave, we're always sitting there with just our jaws dropped
Just
open.
dumbfounded.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like, okay, we need to be better humans. We need to love more. We need to, get rid of some bad habits. It's just, there's always something that
Yeah.
you bring to the
Yeah.
table. So,
Yeah.
So sorry, Ian, you're not the youngest person.
That's all good.
Well, why don't we start off by you just telling us who you are, where you came from, who is Sunny?
So I'll give you the Coles notes.
Yep.
I mean, I grew up in Ottawa. That's my hometown. I actually still have an interest we have 4 offices, KW offices in Ottawa, by the way.
Oh,
I didn't know
So
that.
I'm actually teaching there later this week. We have an office actually in Cornwall. So we have East Ottawa, West Ottawa, Central Ottawa, and Cornwall.
wow.
So we have 300 agents there. So I'm still involved in that. Grew up in Ottawa. I was supposed to be an accountant. My mom had an accounting business, and she did real estate on the side because of tax consequences. You could buy real estate.
Yeah.
So I used to start helping her with her real estate deals, and I just started getting the bug, and I said, "Oh, I want to get into real estate." And like I come from the Caribbean, but we're Indian background. So doctor, lawyer, dentist, accountant. You have to kind of like
Yeah.
follow into this whole
Exactly.
thing.
You're a failure.
Exactly.
You're like, Mom, I have all these offices.
In fact, it's like even at my age, my mom's like, "When are you going to get a real job?" Still today.
Oh God, what do I tell my
Right.
friends?
So anyway, I said to my mom, I said, I'm going to become a realtor. I want to become a realtor. She's like, "Oh my God, it's almost like it's worse than a used car salesman."
Yeah.
Right. And so anyway, I got in when I was 18 and was still studying. So I managed to finish over a 7-year period, still have an undergrad in urban planning architecture. I have a master's from
Yeah.
Queens.
Wow.
However, at 21, my 3rd year in while I'm studying, that was my breakthrough year. So I did 108 transactions.
While you were in
Incredible.
school?
21, I was number 1 in units for
Wow.
my company in Canada.
Wow.
Wow.
So I, at that point, it's like no going back at this
Yeah.
particular point. So, obviously my career developed. I took a little bit of a sabbatical. I did some sort of humanitarian spiritual work out in Asia. And then I came back and I said, you know what, I opened up a coaching consulting business. So I actually had first person to kind of have a team in the early 90s. So I saw the whole idea of team development. So I became a coach in the 90s to a lot of realtors who now have large teams. That's why I know a lot of people. And then headquarters for Remax started to hire me. Headquarters for Royal LePage started to hire me. Headquarters for Cola Banker. I had a lot of, and then suddenly there was this company called Keller that was coming in, and I saw their coaching, training, development happening. But prior to that, I was with Royal LePage headquarters for 3 years. I was a director there.
Wow.
So that was a really good experience. And then I opened up the first Keller in Toronto. And then the first Keller in Canada was in Ottawa. I went back to become a partner, and then we grew that one to be #1 in the world for them.
Wow.
So in 2010, they were the #1 Keller organization in the world.
Wow.
And then came back here 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I had met my partner at that time, and she wanted to be back in Toronto. So I said, okay, we'll come back, and that's how we opened up these offices here.
Incredible.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you at one point have the biggest swimming pool in Ottawa or something?
In my neighborhood, I did. It was really interesting.
Which I
because
never got an
grew
invite to yet.
I lived in the same neighborhood that I grew up in. My parents lived there. My brother lives in the same neighborhood.
Okay.
It's Ryan Farm. It's next to Algonquin College, Woodruff.
Yeah.
And so that swimming pool, I swam in that pool as a kid because the kids were friends of ours.
Yeah.
So I swam in that pool, and then later on, when I'm moving back, I'm like, oh, that's the Pritchard's home. I swam in that pool.
Oh my
so
gosh.
I went because they don't dig pools like that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had the biggest pool in the area.
Full circle moment.
Yeah,
You own
exactly.
the pool.
So what made you continue real estate while you were in college or university? Why did you continue to do university when you were #1 in your 3rd year?
Well, I guess I'm a big believer in education.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of whether you have a degree or don't have a degree, I believe what happens if I want to make a change out of the business?
Yeah.
What credentials do I have? What training? I actually felt that when I did my master's, I'd already been working for 7 or 8 years, and I was taking those classes with a real life view of business.
Yeah.
And I actually think it was probably one of the biggest academic experiences, me doing an MBA over a 3-year period while I was working. Because I could say, oh, this is how you hire people. This is how you set up processes. Because it was very complete. So I actually had a really great academic experience at Queen's while doing my master's and working, because I felt that I'd been in the work situation already, where rather than just being, somebody that has no business experience and then taking, it just stays in your head as academic.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense.
You did all those deals that 3rd year in.
Yeah.
You said at one point you took a sabbatical and you just left and you went to go do on a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
How far after practicing real estate did you take that?
Well, that was shortly after. That was only about 3 years, 4 years later, because I think the difficulty is that I've been an overachiever in a lot of things that I've done, and I think that is sometimes it's unhealthy in some ways, in the sense of when you do things early in your life, you kind of lose a little bit of the drive.
Okay.
What am I going to do?
There, done
What am I
that.
at 21? And I'm not trying to be, boastful about it, but I don't know another 21-year-old to date that has done 108 units.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know people doing
Absolutely.
100, but at 21.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's kind of like, well, where do you go from there? Right. And I think that real estate is it's somewhat of an unhealthy business on your psyche.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're constantly having to sort of stop and start. Do this, and so there's a lot of stuff that I feel with this industry. While I love this industry and it's a massive opportunity, I believe that it wears on people, and it actually sometimes robs your soul. And so I started meditating. And as I started meditating, I started to get more connected, and then I started meditating with this group, and this is the spiritual group that does all these retreats and programs, and so part of their funding, because they're a nonprofit, they then take their excess funding and they work in poverty-stricken villages in India. Wow. And I had never been to India, even though my background's there. I don't speak any of the languages, so I went there and I worked in the organization, and then they had me become a teacher, and they said, oh, well, go open up, this center in Bombay, go open up this center in Delhi. And I think maybe because I was a Canadian Indian and people didn't see people like me coming there to do that work, I literally had hundreds of people coming to my classes. I was teaching, a combination of meditation. We would have leadership sessions, and then I would go work in the villages, water treatment facilities, housing facilities. Wow. And I actually I donated a lot of my wealth at that time towards that organization.
This is at age 23.
That would have been 25. 25.
Okay.
I did that for 2.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was probably one of the best times of my life, because I realized going into these villages how happy and joyful people are with nothing.
Yeah.
and how we are so unhappy
Yeah.
with everything.
Yeah.
100%.
And
know what I'm
just
saying?
got worse and worse over the years.
And I think while I believe, like live in a nice house, to have a nice car, do all these kinds of things, we're just getting so caught up.
Yeah.
And even now, like even what we're doing, even around social, I mean, I think it's beautiful. You can get a message out, but it's always about looking good.
Yeah.
And it's not who you really are.
Exactly.
And there's that pressure all the time.
Everyone's always
right.
posting their wins on social, and no one's ever posting their L's.
And then when you do see someone who is vulnerable enough to post something that's hurtful to them, or something that's happened to them, or their life story, the negative impact that sometimes people put on that is really sad. When everyone just wants to hear, like you said, the wins, the achievements. Why not show your weaknesses? Because that can also help people.
I think that if we look at whatever culture that we come from, whether that be a religious culture or an ethnic culture, if you really studied history, you would actually find that the journey of finding out who you are is in fact the journey of your life. I mean, you're supposed to, look into yourself and unravel yourself over a period of time.
Yeah.
So what I'm finding is that people aren't looking inward. And so who they're becoming is what everybody expects them to be, or what they think sells.
Yeah.
And then later on in their life, they look back and say, who am I?
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I see very successful people, good people, not saying bad people, good-hearted people, they mean well, but they have no idea as to who they are.
Because they're becoming what other people
I'm
want
seeing
them
this
to-
world is lost.
Yeah.
But yet it looks good and it sells, and they're going to become that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not like that at all.
Yeah, that's not
I
who you
heard
are.
this thing. A lot of people are playing a character, and that character is what people want them to play, whether it's their parents, their spouse, or society.
Yeah.
And Jim Carrey said it best. He's like, people, there's this word called depression, and he said it's people needing deep rest from the character they've been playing for so many years. And they get to a point in their life where they're like, now how I've gone so far from where I want to be. So when you ended up taking these little shifts, were you always very introspective? Were you just you were succeeding in your real estate business? You've come so far from that spot, but is it because you didn't want to play a character, or was it,
I think that, when you start meditating or praying and you start being in silence, you really begin to sort of know who you are and listen to yourself. And I think that while I play a character in the sense of like in this world, I think that the ego, we were given an ego so that we can create an identity, and that ego is how other people relate to. However, you have to understand that's ego is just a tool. You have to sometimes just put that back on the shelf, and that's sort of the role that you play. And I think a lot of people, have forgotten that. But I've always been very introspective. I'm actually very quiet. Like, you guys don't see that side of me, but at
Not
home,
at all, yeah.
like my kids and my family.
I'm like mega motivator right now.
we see him on a table dancing in front of 400 of his agents?
And I enjoy that. There's that side of me. There's that side of me, but I'm actually a very quiet person. Like, in my kids and family, like I'm really quiet at home, right? I like, going out, fixing stuff, doing different things, just being peaceful, enjoying my own company. Yeah. Right? So
I actually, before I came over to Keller, your brokerage, I interviewed with 11 different brokerages. Yeah. And my sister, she's actually a mortgage specialist. She said, if you do not meet this man, Sonny, and another one named Steven, she's like, I won't talk to you. She's like, go make your decision afterwards. Yeah. Anyways, after I joined, every time I see him at a party, even if my back's hurting and he has no idea what's going on, he's like, Jen, clear the dance floor. Ready? I'm like, ready for what? And he's just sprinting through, jumping over. And you always make people feel like they're the most important person in the room. But my question to you is, how do you do that? Do you have this extreme self-love for yourself where or I don't know how you do it, but everybody leaves the room and they feel like, wow, I had a moment with that man.
I think
you agree?
I think that when you start to get really comfortable with yourself, you actually start to see that part of your purpose is actually igniting other people. So I actually feel that while I don't do it all, but I feel that it's your job to be that spark for other people. Mm-hmm. So when I'm in an event, sure, I'm going to give you a little spark, and it gets contagious, because the fact is that we have to pour into other people. Yeah. We have to pour into other people. right?
What was it that Christy was saying about Sunny when we had her on? She said that she came over to meet with you once. There was things that she wanted to do in her life, and for the first time, she sat down in front of somebody that told her things that she could possibly create in her life.
Yeah.
And that's why we're all sitting here today in the Fresh Approach team, and we have this podcast. You made her believe that there was something bigger that she could do.
Well, it's really interesting with Christy because I just love Christy. She's just so talented.
She's the best.
But our first meeting, she said nothing. It was just like I didn't have like that
She said nothing?
Yeah,
Really?
because at that time she was working
she was super young
because at
too,
that time
though.
she was
Yeah,
working
yeah.
with her mom, right?
Yeah.
She still hadn't. Fresh Approach was part of her vision, but she was still at that time transitioning from her working with her mom, getting into the business.
Yeah.
And so I remember the first meeting or two, she didn't say a lot. And then I started to just sort of build a relationship.
She doesn't
and-
like
Yeah.
me. His ego's like,
no,
I can't believe
I think
it.
I got on well,
I'm
but I
kidding.
just wasn't sure. It's
Yeah.
like, how am I landing with this person?
Yeah.
Because, when you start to talk about, building your brand, building your business, and then over a period of time, I think that she just started to get into her own. And I think that that's where, was, the whole Fresh Approach was a generative idea of Christie's that was there, and that just sort of developed at a period of time. But I looked at her and I said, and she has incredible talent. I said, you should be, leading and running a team. You got to learn leverage. You got to learn this. You got to learn all kinds of things. So it was really just a conversation over a couple of periods of time where I think that, it's like you were that version. Now you're a different version. Now you're a better version.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
she's just kept upgrading
Kept
herself.
growing.
So I'm so proud of the success that her and Jeff have had along with you. Group, it's like unbelievable what an idea and people coming together can create.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Keller Williams for a sec? Because how long have you been the owner of this brokerage?
So we started in 2013 in Port Credit
Just
as
one office?
Yeah, as just Port Credit, and that was Realty Solutions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Real Estate Associates actually existed since 2007, but it was part of a previous ownership group, and they were having their challenges, and so in 2015 I acquired them. So there was a period of time between 2013 and 2015 where we were running separate brokerages.
Yeah.
And so in 2020, or we went through 1920, we merged them all into one.
Oh, wow.
And the reason why we didn't do Realty Solutions is because Real Estate Associates had been out in the marketplace since 2006. So we just kept, even though we absorbed them into our other brokerage, we kept the name Associates.
Kept the name.
Yeah.
Got it.
Wow. Okay, so it hasn't been that long then.
No, I mean, it's really been, this is just finished the 11th year going on to,
With Keller Williams.
Yeah.
So why Keller Williams?
Well, I mean, I had started the one in Ottawa. So
Yep.
I've been with the one in Ottawa, since 2003. I think that, when you ask that question, I think that it's not just Keller specific, because I really feel that, I'm going to continue to develop and give my people what is the best version of any company.
Yeah.
I think that what Keller did was they took some of the best ideas of a lot of different
Absolutely.
companies.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
So first of all, what do people need? They want to be part of a culture.
Yep.
Now there's companies that don't have a culture that are low budget. I didn't want to be part of that. So we want to have a culture. We want to have training. We're not just training and coaching, but you want to have to take care of the new people, who calls launch.
Yeah.
Then we want to have to do growth, so people who are in the middle of growth, and then we want to have to do achieve, which are people that have teams. So we want to try to take people through those three things. That's not a new concept.
Yeah.
We want to be able to involve people in the decision making, and so that's why we have, an ALC, that's why we have open books, that's why we have, profit share. And we also want to have a capped compensation system, whereby which, and it's interesting, since we had a capped compensation system, almost all the other franchises and all the other independents have a capped compensation system.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because, it makes sense. Like, take a fair amount of money from an agent, offer a high level of service, training, options, leadership, whatever, but then stop taking money out of their pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let them, you know what I'm saying?
Let them live a little bit.
Let them, yeah.
Yeah.
So it only makes sense. So, when you look at that, that's what drew me, because at my previous companies growing up as an agent, I felt like, well, no, the training wasn't that great. It was
Yeah.
okay. I felt that they were always gouging you all the time forever. I felt that you didn't really have a say in the business. You know what I'm saying? I felt that the culture was spotty.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I think that there's just pieces of that. And I think
absolutely.
I think it's like a lot of companies have grown because of what we've done.
Yeah.
And I see that also we were also a generation of taking the best of what other previous companies had done.
So since you took over in 2015 to now, a lot has happened. As agents, we have our own personal things that we're going up against every single day. But with you, you've been growing brokerages. You've had all these people coming into your all the number of people that have been coming into the organization. Are your setbacks really big when they happen now? Now that they're just bigger things that you're going after, or have things just been very seamless and smooth?
No,
throughout
it's
the
not.
process?
It's not seamless. But I wouldn't say the setbacks are big. I think that there's going to be setbacks.
Yep.
Yeah.
No
And
matter what you do in
Yeah,
life.
there's going to be setbacks.
Sure.
And I think that how you process it is really a mindset thing.
That's what my next
And
question
and I
was,
think
yeah.
that for me, you know, like you guys know I play sports.
Yeah.
So I'm a tennis player. Like it, you know, tennis and golf are actually lonely sports.
Yep,
Like
they
it's
are.
you making your shot.
Yeah.
And it's immediate feedback. Like immediate feedback.
Yeah.
If you don't hit the racket or the club right, it goes off in a direction. It's not like other comp sports where you
Yeah.
can wait.
Yeah.
It's like immediate.
Yes.
So I think that I've just developed a mindset that, you know, like, I mean, again, you know, if you look at the US Open on the weekend, like it was really only 5 points. That was the difference that Taylor Fritz could have taken
Sure.
Yannick Sinner a set or two. Just 5 points. So it's not like you have to win, you know, 90%. You have to win 51 or 52% of the
Yeah.
time.
So what did you do to build that mindset? Because I know you said you built this mindset so you can go through it. Was it the things like sports that helped you deal with these?
I think in real estate, the biggest thing is rejection. I think that, okay, so, you know, go back at 21, how did I do that 108 sales?
Yes.
So I was cold calling 100 times, like 5 days a week, 100 numbers a day. So you have to understand 100 numbers a day, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Wojciechowski, Sonny Daljit, I'm a local realtor. Have you thought about selling your home? Have you thought about buying? Yes. Have you had an evaluation on your home? So you know, you do that
Yep.
for 3 years every day. Cause like I'm 18.
Yeah.
My friends aren't buying.
Yeah.
I looked young at that time.
Yeah.
Even I looked like I was 12 wanting to sell their home. Like I get so
Yeah.
many doors on my face. So I think what happens, you have to understand is that once you go through so much rejection and so much no, you have to understand no means no right now.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean future. Say, okay, and I would just keep them in my database. Maybe they say 3 years down the road, keep in contact with them.
Yeah.
So I think that you just process life as a result that if of 100 calls, if 3 people or 4 people said yes,
Yep.
but 97%
Yeah.
said no, I'm still going to be successful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Massively successful.
Yeah.
You just have to look
But
for the
it's
yes.
so it's that and it's consistency. And the other thing that you have to understand.
Did you continually, sorry for cutting you off, feel good throughout the entire process? I know all this rejection.
No,
Oh, you didn't?
no.
So
I hated calling.
like
Yeah.
you're an amazing person, Sonny.
Listen, let's be.
But if somebody said no,
let's listen. I love people and I love chatting with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's be honest
Yeah.
with you. Who likes lead generation?
No,
Yeah.
nobody
likes lead
Nobody.
generation.
Yeah.
So anybody's going, I get up and lead generate. Sure. Okay. Sometimes, some days you'll like it more than other
How
ones.
much will it cost for us to hire you as our lead gen?
I'm just saying. Is just that. But you know that it's a necessary means.
Yes.
And then once you start talking to people and building a relationship with them, the fortunate thing is that after you start building your base up to a certain amount of people, all you're doing is lead genning with people you already know.
Yeah.
So they're always happy to hear from
And
you.
even if out of those 100 people, let's say 2 people,
Yeah.
that's 8 database ads a week
yeah.
times 52 weeks times
Just take
3.
40 weeks. Take 12 weeks
Yeah.
off, 40 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, 8 database ad, that's 240 people.
Yeah.
240 people at a low conversion rate at 240 people, let's just say 3%. So you're undoing 9 deals out of that. Our average commission here is $13,500. It's $100,000 just there
Right.
Yeah.
off additional lead gen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not talking about your current clientele base. So it really is a numbers thing. And
Yeah.
you just
Fired
can't
up
take it
over
personally.
here. I'm fired up.
You just can't take it personally.
Exactly.
Right? You just have to understand it's
People are gonna
okay
say no.
and just smile and move on.
Yeah.
But no, I can't say to you that I think that my last point is that success is boring. And so we're looking for this sizzle all the time. No, making a call, following up with people, doing the stuff.
Doing
it's
the boring
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's boring. And you have to
On
understand
repeat is
Exactly.
that boring and consistent will always win.
Yeah.
You know the funny thing about realtors? We're all not boring people, but we have to do boring
Boring
things.
things.
Hey, that being said, do you know this guy was rubbing shoulders with Alanis Morissette?
Oh my God.
Back in the day, he
No
was on a
way.
TV show and he won the entire competition.
There was a there
Can you
was
tell
a,
us about that?
Yeah,
Like
so in
encyclopedia.
Eastern Ontario, she's from Ottawa.
Yeah.
Didn't live too far. In Eastern Ontario, they had these talent shows, and some of my friends talked me into going and doing this talent show. So I had just got into real estate. I was 18, so I got into this talent show. Next thing you know, I win my category in the talent show. So then in Ottawa, they have like the equivalent of the X. Here in Toronto, they have the X talent show in Ottawa. It's like this.
CNE.
It's this, like the Eastern Ontario Central Exhibition. So that's on stage. That's in front of other people. So I decided to put together, a variety show thing. I won that show, but she won. So I won the variety contest. She won the singing contest.
Yeah.
Well, that became the formation of a show called Homegrown Cafe, which is primarily in Eastern Ontario, but it was a talent show that went on for 15 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I remember Alanis, she's a lovely person, very talented, but how she got her name was singing these songs. Like her song was Memories. Memories all alone in the moonlight.
Sing it.
No, I'm telling you.
Sing it. Come on.
I'm telling you. That's how she won the shows. I'm like, she's winning with Memories.
Alanis Morissette,
And
if
now
you're
when I
watching,
hear,
we did you on.
Anyway, I love Alanis. Alanis, if you remember Sunny, you probably do from back in the day. So, but yeah, it is what it is. I mean, and she's super talented, really creative, But she won with Memories. I'm like, damn, Memories is going to beat me.
So unboring people doing boring things
Yeah.
every single day.
Well, no, you go.
Could you talk to us about, growing the brokerage and some of the biggest challenges you faced and how you kind of overcame that?
Yeah.
Well, I think that there's a couple of ways to build business. And I think that a lot of times people say we want to build it from the ground up. But I also think you have to build it from the top down. Wow. You have to do both together. So let me explain to you what I mean by that. Nobody wants to join a brokerage if there's not big producers. Yeah. So I was a big producer. I know how it is to talk to top teams. So if you look at our brokerage, the dynamics of it is that we've got 10 to 15 pretty significant teams, including the team that you guys work for.
Yep.
Not just making X, but making in the millions. Yep. So there's never been an assembly, and I've always been very successful of being able to attract $1 million+ earners and understand what they need around admin, support, personnel. So now as a new agent, you're going to want to join a company that's got all these big teams because you got market share, you've got signs, you know how to deal with them. And then really, once you are able to, get from the top down, you start building from the ground up with newer people who are just,
Hungry.
open and hungry and not tainted at this point. And then that ends up becoming sort of your what we call the big middle. Yeah. And the big middle is that, it's people that maybe don't want to have a huge team, but they're past this, but they maybe need some support. And I think you have to have all three of them. You can't just start at one. Okay. It's got to be grassroots, but it's got to be top down. And that will end up filling up sort of the middle base. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's any strategy.
How have you stayed motivated throughout this whole process of building all the Keller Williams offices? Because, like Jen said, there has to be some setbacks, obviously, that have occurred. So how do you continue to find that motivation within yourself to get up every day and go and do it?
Well, I think that you have to have structures in your life, and I call them imposed structures, because you'll have a certain level, you have a certain amount of discipline in your life. I'm reasonably disciplined. However, I use some of that discipline up with certain things, like a little bit with sports, a little bit with my family. So what people have to understand is that you can't have an unlimited amount of discipline. You've got so much discipline that you can exert, in your sort of your cup. So you have to impose a structure on you. That's why kind of like when you join a group, it's like, oh, I don't feel like getting up, but you're going to get up because that group is relying on you.
Yep.
So that's what I call as an imposed structure.
It's like the three of us.
So I say to people simply this: I'm the type of person that can get distracted. I'm the type of person that can go off on a tangent here and there. However, when I made the decision to open and own a brokerage, there was a couple of things. First of all, I had gotten that hunt out in me of being an agent. I did it at a high level. I gotten that hunt out of me in being a real estate coach. I was one of the first. So now when I got this brokerage, I said, I want to be able to help other people based on coach them. Sure, I want to be able to make some money, but also I did it because it was in a structure that I posed on myself. Because I find that if I get up every day and it's just about me, I'm going to stay in bed. But if I get up every day and I realize that I've got 400 families relying on me, that's what motivates me.
Yeah. You know what the funny thing is, Sonny? That's beautiful. Whenever you come and talk to us, there's people that aren't in the real estate industry, my parents, family members, friends. I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to get you on a stage so everybody can hear you. I heard this prayer. I don't know if you've heard the medicine woman's prayer, but it reminded me of like how you kind of lead the ship sometimes. It's, I will not rescue you, for you are not powerless. I will not fix you, for you are not broken. I will not heal you, for I see you in your wholeness. I will walk with you through the darkness as you remember your light. I feel like you're always guiding everybody with such, you bring so much structure and business acumen to everything, but then there's always this, you always leave us kind of just remembering who we are and what our truth is. And my question to you is, what do you believe humans were designed for? Generally, I know we play these characters and are, these egos that we put on to like play these roles, but do you have a general idea of what
I think, that's a really deep question.
Yeah.
I think it's based on everybody's upbringing and maybe their different philosophies. But I know this. I feel this. At the end of your lifetime, you're really going to only ask yourself two questions. I feel, first of all, did I spend enough time with the people that I loved the most? And second of all, was the world a better place because of me? And so I keep that in mind now to say that that's why I run this brokerage like it's my family. I really, it sounds airy-fairy, but I really do love you all. I really do. So part of my family extension is just attracting people that you care and love for, because I feel that that's part of our duty. It's part of our duty. It's part of our connection. And second of all, it's like, I feel it's my duty, even as an elder, to make you guys better than me. And so that you can make that evolution better. And I really think, once you get past it and you're older and you get sick, you just look around and say, did I make a difference?
Was it all worth it?
Was it worth it?
Yeah.
Or was I too busy getting caught up?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So, not a random question, but what have you done with your database that you previously used to sell? Because now you obviously haven't sold in a long time.
Yeah.
What happened to that database?
Well, it's really interesting enough.
Can we have it?
Yeah. Well, my database was it was all in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And it was interesting enough. I didn't know that this was the path that I was going to take.
Yeah.
I had gone on my sabbatical, and I had a business partner at that time. He unfortunately passed from cancer. He was much older. And the lady that sat next to us was a very, very good friend at the RE/MAX office. I was a RE/MAX agent at that time. And, I still love her. And so we just ended up saying, hey, take the database over. And so that would have been in the 90s. And so she ended up taking most of the database over.
Wow.
And then there was a small time in between when I opened this office and was transitioning from Ottawa, where I'd stepped down. And there was about a year where I was an agent, and I did about 5 or 6 sales. And I'd always kept in contact with some of my previous database.
So you never sold really here in the GTA?
No. I've done some deals, just referral deals and even current deals right now. But no, all of my selling was
I used
in
to
Ottawa.
the first entire year I used to call Sonny on every deal. Sonny. I had recently remember somebody tried to drop off a bag of cash. It was actually a deal I did with her.
God.
Yeah.
I was like, Sonny, brokerage owner, do you accept cash? He's like, how much? I'm like, 50 grand. He's like, no.
Saying that though, it's really interesting because I see the deals all the time. I still go out and see houses. And even though I sold in Ottawa, I feel like I have just as much knowledge about the
Yeah.
market. Like
Here,
people call
yeah.
me about an area, I know what's pricing's going on here
Yeah.
and there.
Yeah.
So if you know your metrics in real estate, it's
Yeah.
applicable in any area.
That's fair.
You know what? Oh, go for it, Ian.
Yeah, running a brokerage is obviously very different from being an agent on the front lines. Do you have one that you prefer now that you've done both? That one you like more?
Yeah.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting.
Do you miss
I
selling?
think, you know, there is, I would say that there's something to being naive and inexperienced. I think it's actually wonderful. I think that we're losing a lot of the naiveness in our world, and we're losing a lot of the wonder in our world. I remembered when I started to do really well in real estate, like I never knew I could make that kind of money. I never knew I could have that kind of car. I never knew I could buy a house when I was 21, even though I was selling houses. Like, so it wasn't an expectation. It was just like, do what you need to do. Yeah. I kind of find as you get older and you get more experienced and you get more things, you have, and especially when you have kids now, it's like you have expectations.
Yeah.
Whereas I didn't really have expectations.
Yeah.
And I think that if you really look at most of life and ask yourself, where is the upset in your life, whether it be with yourself or with other people, it's usually around unmet expectations. So in other words, you're expecting this from them or this from life or this from that. And I think that there's this part of life where, you know, we sometimes need to have no expectations and just do what we need to do. And so I enjoy this phase, but there's nothing like those first couple of phases. And I still, that's why I kind of like still do it. I loved selling real estate. I love to see you guys like, oh my God, I love when you're running. I get a call at 10 o'clock on a Friday night sometimes, and I was like, I know you're running a deal. Let me help you. I still get excited about it. So even if I can't do it, I kind of live through you guys.
Yeah, that's
that
cool.
way.
What's the growth? Like, what's the next couple phase in the next couple years for the brokerage?
You know, it's hard to say, but I will say this: I'm not going anywhere. But I'm continuing to want to evolve the company, and I think that this is what I feel. I feel that I want to be able to just get to a certain group of people.
Okay.
That is like the family. And I've even talked to my staff around that, saying, you know what, I don't want to be in this real estate factory, brokerage factory. So, you know, once we get to a certain number, I've said to them, I said, if we can get to a certain number and we can have enough resources to pay you guys well, that have great facilities, have great support, I can earn a reasonably but good profit, I actually am thinking about capping the membership in my brokerage.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And if I can make a profit and you guys can make great money and my staff can get paid well and we've got great facilities and great support, I don't want to be in this real estate factory.
Yeah, that's actually.
But I think what happens is that, like anything, you've got to build your database to get it to a point, and then once you get to a point, if you can just grow it organically, and then just nurture that. So that's what I feel that I'm working towards in the next year or two.
Wow,
that's awesome.
And I will say this: we started this brokerage, Keller in Port Credit. We took no new people. We took no part-timers. For the first year and a half, we were turning people down. We only took teams and established agents, and that was the first 100. And a lot of those agents are still with us today, and we help them with their business and given them a lot of opportunities.
That's awesome.
You know, so I want to get back to that point of where we get to a certain level and then still remain competitive. I still want to be able to offer a good service, fair service, good facilities, but still be competitive around pricing and costing, so it's fair to the agents too.
Well, that means we can't leave, because then once he caps, we're gonna be like, knock. He's gonna be like, guys, I told you guys on the podcast.
That's right. You have to come in someplace.
It's already been 40 minutes.
that time
Usually
goes
we
by
only
fast,
go
eh?
25, 30 minutes max, but we like to end off kind of fun. Okay,
absolutely.
So we're gonna ask you some rapid fire questions.
Sure.
Okay.
And we're just gonna kick them off. We ask the same ones to everybody that come in.
Okay, what is one movie everybody needs to watch?
Shawshank Redemption.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Book you're reading right now, or book that you recommend that everybody needs to read.
You know, I will say this. It's told people don't know it. It's by he's a late Catholic priest. His name was Anthony DeMello. It's called The Song of the Bird. What it is that it's a series of stories and even funny jokes and stories that he used to use in his sermons. Now he was a Catholic priest in India, but he would go to Hindu households or Muslims households or Christian households or agnostic households or atheist. So he's got a book called The Song of the Bird. Wow. And if ever you're wanting to just get little stories that are like meaningful or funny, I would read that one.
Nice.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee. Yes. Just one, and then sometimes I'll occasionally have tea.
Okay.
Are you an early bird or night owl?
I'm actually I have the curse of both.
Oh, really?
So I do get up. I do get up in the morning at 4:30.
Jeez.
Every day?
3-4 days a week.
Okay.
Because I'm in the gym by 5:30. So that's for my training. And however, I could be up till 2:00 in the morning. I've got the curse of both.
So what's your morning routine right now?
My morning routine right now is I get up in the morning. I do a ginger lemon shot.
Nice.
I make a little bit of a shake, and then two days a week, Tuesday, Thursdays, I do very intense strength training, simply because I'm training for tennis and golf, and so those are with a trainer.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 days, I'll be working out just on stretching, and then others. So 4 days, I'm actually in the gym doing stuff, and then I don't normally have, in the summer times, I'm playing tennis up to 5 days a week.
Nice.
And then golfing maybe once a week, maybe twice a week.
What time are you
in the
going?
morning? Sorry.
No, I don't play.
Oh,
I used to
okay.
play early morning tennis, but now it's hard to get that group. Sometimes on the weekends I'll play morning, and then if I can get in the winter times twice in, that's all I need to get in because the summer I play so much with the tournaments.
And then what do you do after? Go home, shower, get ready, go to the office?
Yeah, I mean, I go. Yeah, I'm usually.
I love how invasive we are.
No,
are
I'm
you
usually
doing?
done. I'm usually done. I have a little group at the gym that we all get together, have a quick coffee, and chat for half an hour. And so I'm usually out of there by 8:30.
And last one, life is.
Life is curious. Yeah, and I say curious. I said at the moment that we lose the curiosity and think we know life, I think that's the moment that we get stuck. We've got to remain curious. And I think that curiosity is something I'm very curious about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you sort of, so I think we can't lose that curiosity of life.
All right, last one for you.
Oh, yeah.
What's one thing you can't live without?
Oh, yeah, good. That was what the last one was.
One thing you can't live without.
Oh my gosh. What's one thing that I can't live without? That's a really tough one. Okay. Shrimp curry and roti.
Good choice.
Awesome. And that brings us.
That's where the Caribbean guy comes in.
And he makes a good one, apparently.
Shrimp
Yeah,
curry.
you said our next
shrimp,
retreat,
shrimp,
we're coming to
shrimp
cook.
curry and roti. Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of the episode,
Thank
Sonny.
you so much, Sonny.
keep
We went
it
over,
having you
but
on.
All right.
that was fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
And
A
as
lot of good
always,
golden nuggets.
if you enjoyed this episode, like, subscribe, comment, and where could we find you? Can they come knock on your door somewhere? Do you have a social media? Do you
Yeah,
have...
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Actually, I get a lot of messages through those.
Yeah.
So just message me. I'll always
Okay.
reply to people and stuff
Perfect.
like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank
And
you.
do you agree to come back on another episode?
100%.
Get him on
This
the
is
air
great.
saying yes.
It's been really great what you guys are doing. Really is. So
I
I'm
actually-
very proud of all three of you.
Before we wrap up, is there anybody else that you would want to see on the podcast?
You know what? I think you should have one of my friends on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who is
and
this?
He is a former journalist anchor. I
Okay.
can get him to be. His name's Kevin Newman.
Cool.
Awesome.
So he was the anchor for Global. And he's also he's a celebrity. He's a celebrity.
Amazing.
He's a good friend of mine. I think that from a Canada, where Canada's going, the political environment in the States, what's happening
That'd be a good
in
one.
the Middle East, how journalism is changing.
Yeah.
You know that you can't. You know, he was able to earn an amazing living as a journalist. You can't really do that anymore. It's like it's moved to a different model. Just a very good, balanced guy. Mississauga boy.
Yeah.
Went to Arundel High School. You know, was the host of Good Morning America. Was one of
Amazing.
the very few anchors that was a host of an American television show.
You have to set it up.
So
Yeah.
I'll get Kevin
love to
here.
have him
on.
And I
Amazing.
think you should
Awesome.
ask him some get into
Oh,
the
Yes.
get into
Yes.
the environment.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
There's
let's
Get
Alex
into what's going on with
Oh.
politics.
I get into
what's
it.
going on with our
Yeah.
world.
Alex gets into
Okay,
it.
so we'll
Get
have to
into
save
it.
that for
Yeah.
after the baby comes and I'm
Yes.
able to drive
Thanks
again.
so much,
All right.
Sonny.
Okay,
Thank
no
you
problem.
so
All
much.
right, take
Appreciate
care.
having
That
you
was
on.
keeping
All
it
right.
fresh.
Fresh.
Episode 13. It's a wrap.
Yay.
I love you.